And a good morning to the radio listeners, televiewers, and those who are following by the available medium. Welcome to my inaugural program entitled The Voice of Reason. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is George PANTOPHLET, former Member of Parliament, who will be contesting January 9th, 2020 elections as a number 13 candidate on the list of the National Alliance. Today, I will give you some information as to who George PANTOPHLET is. But before I do so, let me extend again congratulations to our Prime Minister, Ms. Sylvia Jacobs, to our incoming ministers, Adrian Atwell and Mr. Jurandi Durang. Of course, I cannot forget our new incoming MPs, Ludmilla Duncan, Anna Richardson, and of course, Rudolph Samuel. I wish them much success in their endeavors because I believe they have what it takes to manage this country. As I stated in the beginning, I will give you some information as to who George PANTOPHLET is. I was born on the beautiful island of Aruba to my now deceased parents, George Raphael PANTOPHLET, better known as Battling Siki, and my mother, as a matter of fact, she was born here in St. Martin, down the street we will call it, and my mother, Mariana Illage, was born in the Dominican Republic. Her father, Reginald Illage of St. Martin. That is where my roots came from. As I said, I was born in Aruba, and I received my education on that beautiful island. I attended the primary school, Princess Irene School in St. Nicholas. After completing such, I attended the secondary school, Abraham de Veer School, where I got my diploma, Mulu A, back in those days. Shortly after that, I attended the Universidad de Aruba, where I got my certificate in administration and human relations. Shortly, and I can tell you time goes by very quickly, I was boarded a plane and came to St. Martin, an island that I've grown to love. And you know what's interesting? My father was born on St. Martin, loved Aruba. I am born on Aruba, loved St. Martin. So we kind of switched places. Of course, eventually came back home. But I must say something about him because fact is, he is one of those that has made me the man I am today. Something my father said to me when I was a little boy, and when he said it, I did not understand it at the time. He said, I made you, not government. We were little children. He said, I made you, not government. In other words, it was his responsibility as a father to take care of us, his 11 children which he had. Of course, one of them passed away, my stalwart union leader, powerful president of the WICSU back in the day, Patricia PANTOPHLET. I miss her tremendously. She was the one who would encourage me and advise me, especially with regards to labor issues. She was a defender of the people. But as I said, my dad is the one who has really given me the impetus and the drive to do what I'm doing today. He was a fisherman. He was a boxer. He was a security guard. He raised animals. He sold eggs. He sold numbers. He did everything because he understood that he had 11 mouths to feed, and he made sure that we never were in need of anything. So as I said, he's the one that I appreciate very, very much. After a couple of years in St. Martin, I met my beautiful wife, Evadne Augustine Philip, now PANTOPHLET, who I married 2 years afterwards. And we have 3 beautiful children and 9 grandchildren. I'm hoping that they stop there, but it's their responsibility. And I can really, really say that I have been blessed to have a wonderful family. God has indeed been good to me. One of the things that I always found important, and it's from the time I was in Aruba as a little boy, I never liked injustice. If I see somebody being ill-treated or whatever, I always intervene because I found that there are those who, because of their size or because of their influence, they pick on those who are weak. and abuse them, and I all found that was wrong. So it is something that I did not only come with now, since I came to St. Martin or in politics, but I've had that all the time. So it was while in St. Martin, as I said, I worked at different departments. But before that, I worked at one of the most influential hotels in St. Martin at the time, which was Mullet Bay Hotel. As we all know, Mullet Bay was the hotel, I would say, not only on St. Martin, but I would say even in the entire region, because it had a name that, from the time you mentioned Mullet Bay, everybody knew exactly where that island, where that hotel was, where to find it. So I worked at Mullet Bay, and then in 1980, I saw an ad in a newspaper. They were looking for persons to work at the former police of Nellis Antilles, and specifically in the immigration department. And of course, I applied, and the chief at the time was Major Brown, which we always call him. And when I saw the starting date, it was April the 1st, 1980. So I called and said, Major Brown, please make sure that it's not an All Fools Day joke, because I already submitted my resignation to Mullet Bay in order to begin to work at the department. So he said, no, it is genuine. You will start on April the 1st, 1980, All Fools Day. So it is there I got my experience with regards to really dealing with persons from different nationalities, different countries. But let me share this. I worked at Mullet Bay in the accounting department, account payables department. And I can never forget this gentleman from the United States of America. His name was Richard Louch, or Rich Louch, strange last name. And he said to me, he said, George, you're leaving us to go work in the government service. He said, keep one thing in mind. Accounting, you deal more with documents. In immigration, you'll be dealing with people. And I always maintained that when I left Mullet Bay to work at the immigration department for the former police corps of the Nellis Antilles. And I had one motto: I will treat you the way I want you to treat me. So when they had different nationalities come to the administration, I would see them as if it is George standing outside of the window and not the opposite. And one of the arguments I always made, or the points I always made to some colleagues at the time, if these persons don't come, then there's no need of an immigration department. And always keep in mind that it could have been you traveling to another country. And of course, you know how some of our parents travel to Dominican Republic and Aruba and Curacao and so on. And it's there they worked, made their living, and even send finances back to the island where they originated from. So this is a process that has been continued in different aspects, and it will not change. But talking about the immigration department, I can recall when there are times when I go on vacation, I went on vacation, I would come back, and when I started early in the morning, I would find a whole line of sometimes 60 persons waiting to talk to George PANTOPHLET. I was told that if they came to the administration, look at the window, and I am not there, they would leave immediately. What does that say? I have always been a man of the people, for the people. As a matter of fact, if I'm walking on the street and I'm stopped, I always lend a listening ear. And if I can't advise you where to go, then I set up a meeting that we can meet the following day or later on that day. And I always made sure if I set a time and a date, I make sure to keep that appointment. Or if I can't make it, I call and inform you. And I said it to say this: service, being a civil servant, which again I'll talk about later on, means you are a civil servant. And for me, people are the most important thing in the world. As a matter of fact, without people, we are nowhere, we are nothing. And too often, sometimes, those that get into power, so-called power, or authority positions, we forget that if it was not for the ones who voted for us, we would not have gotten into that position. Always keep in mind that people are the most important thing. And while working in the immigration department, I worked also in the naturalization department, where I did interview for persons who applied for the Dutch nationality. And back in those days, I was really not interested in politics. It was not on my mind. what I did was, when persons came to the office to apply for the Dutch nationality for the interview, one of the things I understood is that sometimes they were nervous and so on, and I would relax them, talk to them and so on, and say, okay, how are things, how is your family? And when they relax, then I would ask the necessary questions. But to be honest, back in those days, it was easier because it was done in English. Today, it is done in the Dutch language, and therefore many persons cannot apply or cannot comply with the Dutch language, so therefore they don't apply for the nationality, or they go and take a course, but sometimes, unfortunately, they don't pass the course, and that's what we have today. But as I said, I worked in the department also. I also worked in a department where they were issuing licenses for events, to be public events, restaurants, the setting of signs, and so on. All those things give me the experience as to the functioning of certain departments within the government apparatus. But as I said, I always keep in mind that the most important thing is people and how you deal with them at the level that you're in. Because I always said to them, I am not your boss, I am your servant. And that is why it's called civil apparatus, civil servant. And I hope that a lot of us are civil servants. Remember that. In the early 90s, I got to back up a bit, in the early 90s, 1991, we had a visit from a group of persons from the Netherlands. And they came to the immigration department and they were questioning me and my colleagues and so on. And what I understood was that they were trying to find a way to have insight into our database in immigration and also our civil registrar. So in order for them to stay in the Netherlands and control what is happening on St. Martin. Of course, personally, I was not too pleased about the situation, but eventually went to the chief at the time, Mr. Holliday, Derek Holliday, and we had a further discussion. And then I told my colleague at the time, Marjorie Gums, I took a white sheet of paper and I wrote on it CONTROL, which meant control. And this is what got me, I don't want to say upset, but I was not too pleased because I thought that we were going to get assistance, but it was not a matter of assistance, it was a matter of control. To go forward, I wrote my first article in 1998, and I entitled it The Recolonization of St. Martin. And I'm giving you this information for you to know exactly who I am. And it was not because of politics that I've started thinking this way. I was always of this mindset, of this thought that St. Martin, as an island, we are strong together, and we can make it on our own once we are able to work together as a team and manage our financial resources. As I said, in 1998, I wrote that first article, The Recolonization of St. Martin. And, people were complaining, what am I saying? I don't know what I'm talking about. This doesn't make sense. The Dutch don't want St. Martin. Well, I'm quite sure that today now, there are many who are of a different opinion because the signs of the times are there. They're clear to see. In 2003, I contested my first election, the Island Council election. I can never forget, I was number 11 on the list. And as we mostly know, during those times, numbers play a role. Some persons want number 3, 4, 5, and those things, because the feeling was then that the higher or the smaller number you have, the better chance you have of being elected. But don't forget, that issue was changed about, I think, the same year before, where it did not anymore meant the position on the list, but it meant the votes that you receive. And therefore, I can remember telling my leader at the time, Mr. William Marlett, I said, look, put me anywhere you want. If the people want me, they will find me. And I was number 11 on the list of the National Alliance. And after the election, I was the 5th highest vote getter on that list. I contested several elections after this. I became the 4th highest, the 3rd highest, up to the 2nd highest vote getter on the list of the National Alliance. So what I'm saying, people will recognize you based on the work they have seen you done over a period of time. And I always say, in or outside of politics, George PANTOPHLET is the same individual. In 2007, we had another election, and of course, I was able again to garner enough votes, some 540 votes, and became again member of the Island Council back at that time. And I'm sure those of you who followed politics over here can remember what you would call the domestic committee. It doesn't exist anymore under that name, but the domestic committee. And what did that entail? I was chairman of the domestic committee, and we had different meetings, whether it's finance or education, whatever it is, it was held in that committee meeting, but behind closed doors. Not like today where you have some meetings are open, the committee meetings, but this was held behind closed doors. And why do I mention this? As chairman of that committee, there were some times that I had meetings, to be honest, I felt as if, the opposition at the time, which at the time we were in the majority, was the Democratic Party, thought they could have used my inexperience, they thought, because I was already there from 2003, to kind of influence me in certain decisions. And basically, I knew my rights, I knew the rules, and unfortunately, as I said, it was not made public, but had it been made public, person would have seen that the George PANTOPHLET who they see most of the time is cool and calm. I know when to be aggressive and when to be passive. And one of the things I learned as a leader, if you want to be a leader, you must be able to handle pressure, to respond in a very understandable and clear manner, and not to allow your emotions, which sometimes, of course, we do have emotions, but at the same time, to make you come to decisions that you regret afterwards. Because people need a leader who's firm and strong, who can handle the pressure. And as I heard this morning, I was listening to a preacher on the radio, and he said, when we get, let me paraphrase, when you get the challenges of life that are difficult, then the true you will come out. What would you do? Would you regret or would you progress? And I've learned to understand that the more pressure you put on me, is the better I can react, because I learned to remain cool and keep the storm inside of the man from affecting his decision, because you're looking at people, not yourself. You want to ensure that the people can look to you and see that when you're under pressure, you're a man who can stand the storm and withstand the storm. And when the storm comes, you set your sail. Don't let it be one that pushes you away, but use the wind of challenges to push you into the direction that you want to go. As I said, in 2007, I became member of the Island Council again. And then in 2008, I was appointed as State Secretary of Health of the former Netherlands Antilles, a position which I held for about a year and months. And then in 2009, I became Member of Parliament of the Netherlands Antilles, former Netherlands Antilles. And why did I mention this? In 2010, the National Alliance won all the seats they won from the federal elections. And that afforded me opportunity to be in Parliament until 2010. I think it was July, August, when we had our Island Council election. But instead of it being 11 members, after the results, there were 15 members of Parliament of the new, state, I would say, constitutional state, because I remain firm that we are not a country. You can't have a country within a country. We are not a country. We are an island in agreement with the Netherlands and our other partners in the kingdom based on constitutional laws that binds us together. So that I want to make clear. There's something that people of Seman don't know about me. And I can recall when I was member of the Parliament of Antilles, there was a law that had to be passed that would pave the way for us to become separate status. And for whatever reason, the then Prime Minister Curacao and Mr. Tacho did not see the need to bring it forward, unfortunately. So what I did, I pursued the matter. I got the support of the other members of Parliament from Bonaire, Sabah, and Statia, and it was brought to the floor of Parliament. And based on agreements and decisions taken in the past, it was passed, and therefore we were able to get our separate status in 2010. For the last 8 years, from 2010 to 2018, I have been a member of Parliament of St. Martin. I've been Vice Chair of Parliament of St. Martin. I've sat on several committees, Finance, Justice, Kingdom Affairs, and it has afforded me a large, give me experience in many areas that I believe makes me one who is capable of handling whatever circumstance, whatever challenges that comes to us regards to the government or the interests of St. Martin. It is important that you understand that when you have a love for people, then you must make sure that you equip yourself, especially to operate in this field we call politics. Let me remind you that you're listening to 98.1 FM, Pearl Studio, radio and television and other mediums. It is important for you to understand this because I want to make sure that you follow the station, which has been one that has given tremendous information, has educated people of St. Martin, and continues to do so. Again, this morning, my name is George PANTOPHLET, candidate number 13, and I love that number. I believe it's a number that that people recognize much easily. Some people say that it's the way you call it. They consider it the unlucky number, but let me insert here for those who might not have known. I have competed in the boxing field for a very brief time. I had 2 professional fights on St. Martin. I won both of them, and the issue is that you cannot determine who one is unless you really spend time with them. So again, number 13, why I mentioned that was the last fight that I had was on Friday the 13th, and it was my Good Friday, I would say, and it was my opponent Bad Friday because I knocked him out in the first round. So people of St. Martin, I want you to keep in mind that we are heading into election, which is upcoming January 9, 2020, and there are many persons who said they're not going to vote, and they don't know why they should vote and so on. It is crucial that you as a people of St. Martin come out and vote. I am your number 13 candidate, a man who has proven over the years to be a man of the people. I think that you should understand this, and whatever has taken place, you look at the list of the National Alliance, you see people who are committed, consistent, and qualified. So on January 9, 2020, come out and vote for the National Alliance, your number 13 candidate. I'm on the closing now, but let me remind you that next week again, at around 10:30 the same time, I'll be on this program at 10:30, The Voice of Reason. Maintain that in your minds, because you see, why did I use this name, The Voice of Reason? There are many times as politicians, there are things we want to accomplish, and we make promises that we can't keep realistically. So I believe that it's time that we as politicians, when we go out on a campaign trail and we talk to the people, let us use the time to listen more. Do not tell them what you want to do for them. They have to tell you what they want you to do for them. And it's up to you to carry it out. Too often, I feel people don't understand the power that they have to vote, to change governments. Yes, we know the ship jumping, but again, if George PANTOPHLET was an UP and then DP and then NA, then it is up to you to determine, can I trust him, can I trust her? How serious are they about the ideology of the party? Why did they join in the first place? Did the ideology of the party change? And these are the things people have to look at and realize. And if you say you're not going to vote, what does that do? That gives an opportunity for those who have been doing this all the time, throwing on government after government for personal interests, personal agendas. You give them the opportunity to get back in there again. If you look at the configuration right now of the parties, the only one that is stable and consistent is National Alliance Party. If you look at the others, and I told people all the time, I say to people all the time, and I wrote this article, Break Up to Make Up. The PFP party, the UD party was UP party, was Democratic Party. It is the same configuration of persons. Yes, you have new individuals on the list, but if you look at the background and the history, It is one and the same. So people of St. Martin, don't be fooled. What they do, what they're doing now, they see National Alliance as a threat, because the fact is, National Alliance has the list, the candidates that can manage this country. They're qualified, they're experienced. We have a balance. We have a balance. In life, you need to have a balance. And therefore, if St. Martin wants stability, then you have to make sure that you put the right persons in place. We had our minister sworn in, we have our UMP sworn in, and if you look at the makeup, you as a people should be proud, because we are all about you, the people. If you take National Alliance, you compare with the other parties, UD, UP, DP, PFP, all of them the same background. What are the interests? Alliance is always for the social and economical development of the people of St. Martin. This is why I joined in the first place. We are about people, about housing, about education, about income, about the cost of living, things that are important for the people, for the masses. And this is why, today, as I said, I'm just talking about myself, but certain issues will come up. And next week, I'll be talking more about the cardinal issues, income, wages, medical, education, food prices, rents, pension. And why do I say pension? And this is something that I'll say now, but of course, I'll elaborate and expand on it next week, is the issue of the pensioners. I was at my GP's office. GP means general practitioner, and there was a lady, she's about 70 years of age, and she was lamenting the fact. What was she lamenting? She said, had she known that when she was younger and built all those apartments, borrowed money from the bank, paid interest and so on, to make sure that she could live comfortably in her later years, that she would have to pay taxes to like $11,000 every 2 years, she would have not built anything and just kept her hands open and begged government. This is the state of our pensioners who have worked when they were young, built a life for themselves, saved their money, and now today, because of that, they're being chastised for this. And I'm saying, no, we have to look at that. I heard the Minister of Finance this morning mention the issue of the ordinance concerning the collection of taxes. We will sit down together, because I have my own ideas as to how to address it, because these taxes are 70 years old. So I'm saying we have to make sure that we put these things in place in order to alleviate. If you love your pensioners, then make it possible for them not to carry that burden. They worked all their lives for it, and they should not today, in their golden years, when they should be relaxing, have to deal with something like taxes. I think that's very important. Another matter people complain about also is the matter of rent. Now, the rent committee came to Parliament some 3 years or 4 years ago, and they were asking Parliament for the permission to have a law amended, the law concerning the rent, the setting of rent prices. And what was said, that the law that exists today only gives the rent committee the authority to decide on a home that is valued at 50,000 guilders. Now imagine, which house will be costing, or what house, where in the world you'll find a home that costs 50,000 guilders today? Nowhere today. So what they were saying, because of the increase in prices in the homes, give them the authority to also determine what the price of the rent is going to be. Of course, then you have to say, well, the landlord will complain and say, well, yes, but I'm paying the bank. And then I will say to the bank, then deal with interest rates because it's too high. Then the bank will say, I have my shareholders to deal with. Then I say to them, then let us talk to the central bank. But the issue is, all stakeholders, central bank, local banks, everyone has to do with these rent committees and so on, has to sit down together and determine, because you can't have somebody making $800 a month and a rent for one room, not a one-bedroom, but one room, because I've seen it myself, I've visited those places, for $600 and $700. Now, how can they live? So, again, as I said, a little bit about myself, I'll touch on some issues which I'll expand on next week, but I want to thank you for listening to us and viewing us on 98.1 FM Pearl Studio. See you again, and enjoy, and of course, televiewers and radio listeners, please make sure you do that. So again, this is your voice of reason, George PANTOPHLET, have a good day, and God bless you.